Hey, I'm John F. Gately. You can call me Jack, and welcome to the show. Today is Thursday, January 4th. Heading into Friday tomorrow. It is a short week to start the year, and we have a great show for you today. We have Turtleboy developments, Councilor Anderson in Boston not taking the oath. We have Mayor Wu saying all sorts of crazy things about Claudine Gay. We have other media reaction about Claudine Gay. And we also have ballot questions that are now moving forward in the process to the state legislature. We're going to cover all of that and more in today's show. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we do that, of course, we have weather alert, a weather alert. Let's cut to the weather to find out what is going to happen this weekend.
Sunday's nor'easter, because we've got our heaviest snow inland, less at the coastline where we could see some mixing, and it's going to be a more compact, heavy, wet snow with winds coming in off the water. Speaking of winds, gusts 30 to 50 miles per hour across eastern and southeastern Massachusetts could make for some power outages, especially when you mix it with that denser snow in some of those locations. You can see best chance for the heavy snow is going to be to the west of 120.
All right, so snow and rain for the coast where I live here in beautiful Plymouth. And the rest of you, it might stink on Sunday. Stay home and watch some football. There's football Sunday, right? Yeah. The Patriots, I think so. I don't know. Who watches the Patriots anymore? But it does look like you're going to hear a lot of weather stories. The media is all hyped up. And you know what happens? The first media or first weather of the year is, the weather forecasters get all hyped up about their ratings. And right. They try to hype it up, and then we get 2 flakes, and it's nothing. And they lose all credibility for the rest of the year. Same thing happens every year. Like Tucker Carlson said, corporate media is dead, and nothing more illustrates that than when the weather forecasters get all in a tizzy about the first flake of snow, and then it ends up to be nothing, right? Exactly. So yesterday, let's bring up this story. When I first saw this clip, I think I was one of the first people that watched it, because I was on Twitter at the time when this Boston Accountability Network posted this clip. I didn't really know what I was watching, and I want to bring it up here for you right now. But basically, it's Councilor Anderson from Boston not taking the oath of office during the time when everybody else was taking the oath of office. And here is the clip here. So let's credit where credit is due. Boston Accountability Network. Footage obtained by BAN shows that Councilor Anderson, while physically present, did not actually participate in the ceremony, which is weird. You figured you won an election. One of the, kind of highlights of that, you bring your family in and you take the oath. Anderson did not utter a single word of her oath as required by the Boston City Charter. We've reached out to Councilor Anderson for comment. Yeah, probably she hasn't commented. So here's the video, which at first, again, I didn't really realize what I was looking at. But you have the gentleman in the dark suit to the left. You have the woman to the right with the white outfit on. And that's not what you're looking at. What you need to look at is in between them is Councilor Anderson in the background. You can see she just bowed her head there for just a second. And you can see she has her hands clasped together in front of her. Let's bring up the audio, because that will fill in the picture just a little bit more. So let's hit the audio.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance. To the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
They're taking the oath, pledging allegiance. They're taking an oath, and Councilor Anderson does not have her hand up, and her mouth is not moving like the other councilors who being sworn in.
The Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And will support the Constitution thereof.
And like they're taking the pledge, like support the Constitution thereof. You would think you'd have your hand up for that part and be actually speaking the words.
The Constitution thereof. So help me God.
I mean, what part of that doesn't she agree with? Or why is it some type of silent protest that she's not taking this oath? And can you argue that, could you make a legal argument that if she has not taken the oath, is she actually in office? Or is there going to be some development that comes out and says, well, she took it earlier, or she took it privately, or something like that? But why not take it publicly while all the rest of the council is doing it? It just doesn't make any sense.
I do solemnly swear.
I do solemnly swear
That I will faithfully and impartially discharge.
that I will faithfully and impartially discharge.
I mean, she's bowing her head as if it's like, like a moment of silence, but it's not.
And perform all the duties incumbent on me as a member of the Boston City Council. According to the best of my.
All right, and it goes on like that. And it's just like, could you make an argument that she's actually not a member of the Boston City Council? I don't know. Maybe you could. If you don't take the oath, then you're not sworn in. Are you really a member? Yeah, I don't know. Someone tell me in the comments. You can tell me in the comments. There'll probably be some story that comes out that says that she took it privately or something like that. She protested. But it sounds like she almost like took a knee, like during the whole ceremony. Disgusting. Credit to Libs of TikTok for picking this up. So Boston Accountability had the video. Libs of TikTok credited Boston Accountability for the video. Good job, Libs of TikTok. And just a reminder of Councilor Anderson's track record here. She had previously sponsored Boston's Hijab Day. And she apologized for Boston and slave trade, even though that was hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And she's made a history of anti-white racist tweets, which she complains about white people holding government positions. She's married a convicted murderer while in prison for life. And she referred to the October 7th attacks in Israel as simply a military operation. She hates America. And she also quoted, Chaya Riot quoted here, Libs of TikTok quoted Turtleboy for that summary of Councilor Anderson's record. In other words, she hates him. She's basically our Ilhan Omar, right? So that's who she is. She's our version of Ilhan Omar. Aren't we lucky to have her? Oh boy. Complete sarcasm there. It was a tough day for Boston City politicians because Mayor Wu went on with Java with Jimmy. So Java with Jimmy, if you don't, or Jimmy with Java, whatever it's called. If you don't know, he's a podcaster in Boston, but he started during the pandemic, and he does a show like almost every morning. God bless him. Good for him. And when I heard that Wu was going to be on with Java for Jimmy, or whatever it's called, what is it called? Java with Jimmy. I knew she was going to say something stupid because, well, that's Mayor Wu. And she basically said that Claudine Gay was a victim and that the race, or to put her, no pun intended, the race to put her out of office was promoted by racial bias, In other words, Christopher Rufo is a racist for pointing out that the fact that Claudine Gay tolerates genocide depending upon the context, and that Claudine Gay is, how do I want to say this, a plagiarist. Pointing those things out, that you might be tolerant of genocide depending upon the context, pointing that out. The real crime is that you noticed. The real crime is you for noticing that Claudine Gay tolerates genocide depending upon the context. The real crime is that you noticed. How dare you? How dare you double check? How dare you research into your betters? You don't have the right to actually expect our leaders to be accountable. How dare you? If you do that, you're racist. And that's basically what Mayor Wu said yesterday. And I was actually surprised that Boston.com, do we have that article here? No, we don't have that article. Boston.com actually ran a story that covered some of this, but if you wanted to see the video clips, you could either go and watch it at Java with Jimmy, or you could head over to my Substack, johnfgately.substack.com, where I clipped it and credited Java with Jimmy. And here she is here saying gay is the victim. She is being interviewed in an automobile. She seems to be driving in the back seat as Jimmy here.
But it's hard not to put the whole picture together and to look at the dynamics of what happened and how personally this was based, how much sort of racial bias was definitely connected to
just right. When you lose, your opponents are like, it's the first thing they say. If you notice, if you disagree with them, you're a racist. It's the first thing they say, right? Pull out the race card.
This and how much this, people are saying, people are now questioning the entire hiring process and this and that. Well,
yeah, people are questioning the entire hiring process. Hello, the most prestigious university in the world, or theoretically one of the top ones, right? Just hired somebody with a 50-plus track record of plagiarism. 50-plus incidences of plagiarism, right? Not sloppy citations, but plagiarism. Not forgetting to put in the quotes. No, plagiarism. The most prestigious university in the United States, if not the world, just hired a plagiarist as their president. Yes, obviously, Mayor Wu, you should be questioning the hiring process. You should be questioning if a company hired somebody to be the CEO, and that somebody lied about their business career, that they started this startup, that they were successful with this, that they were, and that ended up to all be a lie, wouldn't the natural next question be, we don't want to do that again, and how did we make these mistakes? To look critically at the process to find out where it went wrong. Yes, that would be the natural thing, to question the hiring process. So the next one, she went down here. She said she was saddened by the whole outcome.
They found a hook around this plagiarism thing, but
yeah, Jimmy's very upset about this plagiarism thing.
What is your response wherewith you can respond?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just really saddened by how
I'm so sad. By the way, Wu has graduated from Harvard, and there have been rumors in the past that she actually might go to Harvard as some type. Maybe she could be the president of Harvard. Maybe, I don't know.
The whole thing played out, and I mean, I know whatever I say here is going to get taken and tried to be twisted out of context by certain
people, meaning me.
People too, because that is the world that we live in right now. But
no, actually, Mayor, we're just going to play your words and we're going to commentate. Is that a word? We're going to commentate as you go along.
I simply don't believe that 3 minutes of a video clip, especially in a certain setting where again you're in a place where people are putting you in a gotcha moment, that should define everything. And now, as you said,
you know what, 3 minutes, all you had to say when Stefanik asked in Congress, that'd be a month ago tomorrow, I believe, when Stefanik asked the question, is promoting genocide tolerated on the Harvard campus? All you had to say is no. Or you could have said something like, well, it might be, but it shouldn't be. Instead, she said, depending upon the context, genocide might be tolerated. Yeah, so there is a free speech question there, right? Are you allowed to tolerate or promote genocide? And when you look at most of the free speech decisions on this, promotion of genocide does not fall under protected free speech because it's the impending real and physical harm to the whole effectively millions of people. So you can't promote, it's not a debate about, well, I think the tax rate should be this and versus I think the tax rate should be that. That is obviously covered by the First Amendment. But when you're promoting the widespread death of millions of people, which is what genocide is from, I think, the original Greek, that is not protected by the First Amendment. And certainly a lot of your university speech codes are more restrictive than the First Amendment. Most of your university speech codes are more restrictive than the first. And if you believe in hate speech, which, by the way, I do not believe in hate speech as a criminal construct. If you believe in hate speech, you've got to say that promotion of genocide is hateful speech. If you believe that, right? How can she believe that genocide depends upon the context? But it's Mayor Wu. She's sad about it. She's sad. Here are some really pathetic media spins on this. This one comes from Eileen McNamara. Is that the one that she used to write for the Globe? Is that her? I think it is her. No surprise here. So make no mistake, this was about the money, Eileen McNamara, right? So Claudine Gay is no longer president. We already know that. Their threats had nothing to do with some sloppy citations in her 37-year-old doctorate dissertation. Except Claudine Gay wouldn't be the former president of Harvard if she didn't lie or cheat her way to the top. And how was that tolerated? How did that sneak by? Right? How did that sneak by? Could it be because she has the right color skin for Harvard? Could it? I don't know. You tell me. Had Gay's demise been driven by genuine doubts about her abhorrence of anti-Semitism? There are genuine doubts about her abhorrence of anti-Semitism. She says that genocide is okay, depending upon the context. There are genuine doubts about that. Or her academic integrity. There are genuine doubts about her academic integrity. This is not some podunk community college somewhere where you can hire some former state senator to be the president. This is Harvard University. This is Harvard University. Just stop. And then here from the Globe as well. Gay is the victim. Kimberly Atkins Stour, is that how you say her name? Stohr. I'm not exactly how to pronounce that. The bullies beat Claudine Gay. The bullies did. Okay. Black women in academia wonder if they will be next. Black women in academia feel disposable. Black women in academia. Oh, sorry, I should bring that up. Sorry about that. There's your headline there. They've got nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about unless they tolerate genocide or they've plagiarized their academic papers. They've got nothing to worry about. They're not under attack. Claudine Gay is not a victim. She's a perpetrator. She's a perpetrator. Can't we just settle that question once and for all? All right, so let's move on to Turtleboy. Let's move on to Turtleboy. I don't know how I feel about this whole Turtleboy situation. I think I like the old Turtleboy, when he was taking down politicians like Monica Cannon Grant and exposing people on fraudulent fundraisers and stuff like. I liked that. This complete obsession, which I think we have to admit has gotten to this point where it's unhealthy. Seeing how he's in jail, right? Hasn't worked out. it is definitely unhealthy. But Fox 25 is out with a report last night. This is news from last night about the investigation. So the investigators are now being investigated, and Fox 25 has a report from last night. Let's bring it up here.
25 investigates learning more about the Karen Reed case. The Norfolk DA's office has been communicating with federal authorities about the case as recently as November. That is according to a new court filing from Reed's attorneys. Investigative reporter Ted Daniel was the first to confirm the feds have been looking into the arrest and prosecution of Reed. Ted joining us live in studio now. And Ted, you understand that Reed's lawyers want the communication to be made public.
Yeah, that battle is ongoing, Vanessa. The Norfolk County DA's office has asked that the letters be subject to a protective order to keep them out of public view.
You know what? I think they're going to win on that. Just my point. I'm not an attorney, right? But that's just my guess that they're going to keep this out of public view.
These lawyers are opposing that request. In their filing, they cite our reporting from last month where we revealed the substance of one of those letters.
Morrissey sent a letter to DOJ headquarters in Washington requesting that the federal probe be transferred out of Massachusetts.
That was kind of a slimy move by Morrissey, you got to admit.
That's our reporting from December 4th, when 25 investigates learned of a letter Norfolk County DA Michael Morrissey sent to the Department of Justice. The letter cites potential conflicts of interest in the federal probe of the Karen Reed murder case. In a new filing, Karen Reed's lawyers reference our attempt to get a copy of the letter from Morrissey's office. Boston 25 News had submitted Freedom of Information requests that were denied. We now know
Shocker.
That wasn't the only letter Morrissey and his staff exchanged with the feds about their probe. The Norfolk DA's office has turned over 6 letters to Reed's legal team as part of discovery.
Oh, wonder when those are going to get leaked, right? There's 6 letters. I'd love to get my hands on those.
According to a defense filing seeking to make the letters public, Morrissey's first assistant communicated at least 3 times with acting U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts, Josh.
Thank God it's not Rollins anymore. Oh, my God. Thank God. And in a way, Turtleboy definitely had something to do with getting rid of Rollins, too, for that matter. He contributed because Rollins and Monica Cannon Grant, 2 peas in a pod, really.
And as recently as November, the first assistant requested to know if the feds had uncovered anything in their probe that could impact the state's prosecution of Reed. Levy's response, he would update as circumstances dictate, according to the filing. And on November 22nd, DA Morrissey sent a letter to the head of the Boston FBI office. As 25 Investigates reported, 2 FBI investigators have been questioning people in and around Canton. The contents of that letter have not been revealed.
So a hearing is scheduled for Friday to determine if the letter should be released or impounded. A spokesperson for the DA's office tells me the Commonwealth is comfortable that those matters can be adequately addressed at that hearing in court.
Good job by Ted Daniel. And I think the Commonwealth will win that hearing and keep those letters private. That's just my gut feeling. Again, not being a lawyer, maybe somebody else knows better than I do, but that's just my gut feeling on that. I just don't understand the complete obsession. Certainly, if you believe that there's an injustice at stake where somebody might lose their liberty, maybe for the rest of their life, then obviously that might require you to speak up. But at some point, like, this has gone a little bit beyond that for some people, I think. But yesterday I saw a tweet, and gosh, I need to give credit to this person, and credit I will give on Twitter later today, because somebody tweeted out a public record from the special prosecutor. And the special prosecutor, Kenneth Mello, who's an attorney based out of Fall River, he has been subject to at least 3 incidences of discipline from the Massachusetts Board of Bar Overseers. Let's bring up the story over at johnfgately.substack.com. Turtleboy special prosecutor Ken Mello disciplined by Board of Bar Overseers at least 3 times. So this goes back to 2016, and 2006. So the two instances in 2016 were aggravated by the fact that he received a similar admonition for similar misconduct a decade earlier in 2006. So most of the times, an admonition by the Board of Bar Overseers is not going to be a matter of public record unless you get disciplined again while the admonition is on your record. So there's a period of time where the admonition remains part of the record. And if you get, it's kind of like a probationary period, so to speak. And if you get disciplined again during that, then the admonition goes public. So in 2016, the Board of Bar Overseers publicly disciplined Mello for performing very little work of substance on a case over a 3-year period, resulting in a personal injury lawsuit being dismissed without prejudice. Mello did not inform his client of the dismissal. And so we published significant quotes and a link to the actual Board of Overseers decision, public decision, on my Substack last night. So in this particular case, the client ultimately contacted the court on her own and learned of the dismissal of the court case on her own for the first time. And that was in a civil personal injury case. The other time, oh, by the way, don't forget to subscribe. It's free when you're over at johnfgately.substack.com. The other time was a criminal case, a situation where the man was convicted, the client was convicted, and then the client wanted to appeal. And in that particular case, Mello did not return the client's file in order for him to enable him to pursue an appeal or retain other client counsel. The respondent also failed to file a notice of appeal for the client or to withdraw from the case, contrary to the requirements of Rule 65. So in both situations, Mello, who's now the special prosecutor of Turtleboy, got disciplined by the board. So here it is. He file of notice to appeal and alternatively allowance of the motion to withdraw not done. Promptly return his client files violated standard of conduct C13, whatever that number is there. Not that important. Aggravated by the fact that he did effectively the similar type of thing in 2006. Similar misconduct, specifically failed to prosecute a client's case, resulting in its dismissal, and failed to communicate with his client. So I'm not saying that this is necessarily completely disqualifying of Mr. Mello or Attorney Mello in this particular case. But when you're appointing when you're appointing a special prosecutor, that special prosecutor should be of the highest caliber. And especially now when you have the complicating factor that the investigators are now being investigated, right? And so part of the Turtleboy strategy clearly has been to discredit the prosecutors and the special prosecutor, and we'll see where that goes. So tomorrow, we're getting back to the Fox 25 report that you just heard about the letters. Tomorrow, there's a hearing. And I'm not going to this because I just think, like, if I went, I'd only go to kind of just, like, understand the obsession. But there is some type of rally tomorrow. We'll mention it here, I guess. There is some type of rally tomorrow. Justice for Karen Reed and John O'Keefe and Turtle. So tomorrow the thing is at 9, I guess, and the rally is at 7:30 or something like that. So yeah, I don't think I understand it that well. It's definitely gone from diligent reporting, aggressive reporting, in my opinion, to an obsession, and that's where things can get carried out. No, I'm not saying that Turtleboy is guilty of witness intent. I have not looked into it. I'm just saying it's gone from diligent, aggressive reporting, like, that we need, because certainly the mainstream media in Boston is not going to do that, to something of an obsession, which is certainly seemed to have crossed the line to be unhealthy. right? So let's move on. Much of the Green Line will be closed again for most of January. Oh, I just can't. I can't. Move on. The teacher whose Great Barrington classroom was searched for genderqueer book is taking a temporary leave of absence, according to the Berkshire Eagle. So you might remember, and here's a screen snap of it here. Somebody filed a complaint that the book was, how do I want to say, excessively graphic and inappropriate for school. Not to say that it couldn't be at a public library, for instance, but that it didn't belong in a classroom because it was excessively graphic. And as a result, the police showed up and in uniform, from what I understand, and part of that included a body camera, right? And because that's, kind of standard now for police officers to wear a body camera. And they went to look for the book. And the book wasn't there. And if I remember right, I don't want to speculate, but I don't think the teacher was in the classroom at the time. She was out that day or whatever, how that worked. They couldn't find the book. And now, surprisingly, there seems to be more to this story that we're letting on. Let me share that with you. Sorry about that. I didn't have that headline up. There you go. There seems to be more to the story than meets the eye. Teacher whose Great Barrington classroom was searched for the genderqueer book is taking a temporary leave of absence. Heather Bello from the Berkshire Eagle. And then there is the screenshot, right, that you've seen that the police officer. Now, the police officer, from what I understand, was in uniform, so I don't think it was that big of a surprise that he was there. The 8th grade teacher who was surprised by a police search of a classroom for a controversial book is taking a temporary leave of absence. Principal Miles Wheat announced the leave on the Parent Square app. The Berkshire Eagle is continuing to withhold the teacher's name at her request after she said fears the heated political atmosphere surrounding book challenges. So I'm glad they actually used that terminology, book challenges, because I don't think anyone's out there saying they want to ban the book. I don't think we should ban books. We should not ban books. But there are places where certain books are appropriate and certain books are not appropriate. And that's what is at stake in this particular case. Let's move on to our ballot questions, particular questions. So next step for 7 possible ballot questions is the state legislature. So this is where we might see some deals go down, and some of these ballot questions might not actually make it to the ballot because there could be some backroom deals that make them moot effectively, like that happened in the past with the grand bargain. Remember when we lost the sales tax situation? Thank you, the Massachusetts retailers. You screwed us over. I haven't forgotten. Several proposed ballot questions landed in front of the legislature Wednesday, handing lawmakers a series of decisions. So those ballot questions are to decouple the MCAS exam from the high school graduation. Man, this is promoted by the Massachusetts Teacher Association. Allowing drivers to perform at Uber and Lyft to unionize. That's a ballot question? I don't understand why that would be a ballot question. Allow drivers, because they're independent contractors. I get it. I think they should remain independent contractors. That's my feeling about it. Eliminate the separate lower minimum wage for tip workers. Oh my God, that is going to kill waitresses and waiters. And my kids have all worked at restaurants. That will just kill them. Oh, I don't know what restaurants are going to have to fight that big time. Legalize natural psychedelic substances. So I don't know if you know this, but just in Brookline, was it? I think I mentioned this. We had a kid jump out a 6th floor window because he was high on mushrooms that some guy was selling to him. So that's also a no. And there is another one here. Where'd it go? I'm sure. The one to audit the legislature. Where did that go? That's got to be right under my nose. I don't see it here. So the one to audit the legislature. So the one to audit the legislature is starting to become controversial in legislative races this year. So down there where I live, we have a candidate for state senate, declared candidate for state senate. Her name is Carrie McCray. And we also have another candidate for state senate. His name is Dylan Fernandez. He's the incumbent state representative from Falmouth. And McCray was out yesterday making this ballot question one of the first topics in her campaign in 2024. Let's bring up the story again at my Substack, johnfgately.substack.com. I think we'll be shortening the URL soon. McCray calls upon Fernandez to join DZ, you know who I mean, the state auditor. You know the thing. An effort to audit the legislature. On at least two occasions, Fernandez voted against auditing the House, once in 2017 and once again in 2019. And one of the interesting things about this audit the legislature thing is that it's kind of teaming up good government Republicans with I can't say it today. Yesterday I had the name right. You know the thing. With the state auditor. And that's kind of an unusual man. I imagine that the state auditor, through her political campaign, has done some polling on this issue, and I imagine it polls through the roof, right? Who doesn't want to audit the state legislature? That sounds like a slam dunk. And you've got these incumbents that are either running for re-election or running to move up. In this case, Mr. Fernandez is running to move up from state rep to state senate, who have some really bad track records. And in this particular Plymouth and Barnstable State Senate district, Moran, who is the incumbent, is moving on to try to capture the hack job of clerk of courts of Barnstable, which I think is a 6-year term. And should probably win that or, be very competitive. Matt Moratori, who is the incumbent state representative from Plymouth, he is also considering run, hasn't made an official decision here. But McCray says, I look forward to reaching across the aisle to work with the auditor to make her audit happen. An audit of the general court is a long overdue. It's time for Dylan Fernandez to get on this issue. This shouldn't be about politics. It's about good government. The time has come to get this done. And so it's astounding that of all the state boards and departments, that the legislature does not get audited independently. And I hope this ballot question proceeds and that this becomes a significant race or topic in state legislative races across the state. And I think you're going to find a lot of incumbents are going to be in a pickle, like Mr. Fernandez, because they voted against this time and time again. And good for McCray for starting the year out on what is most certainly a winning issue. And you know who else is winning is New Hampshire. So all credit to New Hampshire. New Hampshire bill targets undocumented immigrants driving with legal Massachusetts licenses. So as you know, here in Massachusetts over the summertime, because of the bill that they passed, if you're a legal immigrant, if you broke into the country illegally, you can now get a driver's license here in Massachusetts. I know, it's crazy. But New Hampshire is now considering a bill sponsored by 10 legislators. So it's not just some wacky, single legislator. It's 10 legislators in New Hampshire that would basically criminalize you driving in New Hampshire if you didn't get your driver's license by proving that you belonged in the United States. Where is the exact language here? Would invalidate any licenses issued elsewhere in the country without providing proof of lawful residence. So Massachusetts, right? And there are several other states that have passed the equivalent of the Orwellian Work and Family Mobility Act, which basically means that illegal immigrants can get a driver's license. I heard that recently that the boost in licenses was 120%. Yes, that's actually covered in the Boston.com article. The Registry of Motor Vehicles issued more than 50,000 new licenses since the law went into a boost of 120%. Although not all of those were from undocumented residents. Let's just call them illegals. By the way, we just had a major population suck, in which case we lost population to all the other 49 states. The only thing that actually boosted our population was the amount of illegal immigrants coming in. So we lost productive, working people to other states. Competitively, we lost that battle. We lost that battle to other states. The only thing that boosted our population was illegal immigrants. Great. Number one. Yeah, awesome. Also, U-Haul, and I believe, Atlas Van Lines, this just came out the last 2 or 3 days earlier this week. U-Haul ranked us 49th for net movers out of state. The only person that we didn't beat state that we didn't beat was California. They were ranked 50th. They had the most outbound moves. California, Massachusetts came in 49th. State budget numbers are coming out. By the way, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I see that we have had quite a number of viewers. I love your comments if you want to throw something in there. State budget revenues are coming out today. And we're 0 for 5. In other words, over the last 5 months, we have missed our revenue projections. And if we miss them again, that would be 6 months in a row. So we'll see what the revenue projection, or see what the revenue number is. It comes out today. But what we can clearly tell you by excellent work from the Herald is mass state overtime is exploding. So we have exploded on overtime. The comptroller's data showing 276 state troopers, MBTA workers, nurses, prison guards, and social workers all pocketed more than $100,000 in overtime last year, a double-digit jump year over year. That's just overtime. That's above and beyond your base salary. There was one state trooper who made $430,000, $251,000 from overtime, and his base salary of $171,000. The guy made, or the woman, we don't know, $430,000 as a state trooper. Yeah, I mean, at some point you've got to say, how much can you work? I don't discount his $170,000 salary. I want to see cops get paid more. I'm for funding the police. But so I'm not questioning that. But at that level of overtime, at what point if you're working at what point does the service that you provide degrade a little bit if you're working that much overtime? I'm just saying, if you're working every waking moment you're working, yeah, you kind of wonder, what is the quality that is being received on that? At some point, there's a diminishing return if you're working that much overtime. A DOC prison guard was the one who boosted his pay the most by adding $207,000. So over at the Department of Corrections, the guy made $270,000 in overtime. For a total of $300,000. That's a whopping W2, I guess so. By the way, the Herald, if we scroll down here, the Herald is coming out with their version once again. Something they've been doing since 2007, your tax dollars at work report. And they're back for another year. We will roll out the reports and databases beginning today. So they're first going to look at the UMass system, the trial courts, the state police, and several other departments. That is starting to roll out. That will be some juicy reports in the coming days. I think that's a pretty good show for today. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm John F. Gately. You can call me Jack. Have a great day. Bye-bye.